Ages during that period of time?
I can ask John O'Brien again, but I had a quite similar question sent his way maybe 2 years ago about what the economic benefit was to restaurants for the closure. And the response I got back was something to the effect of, we don't know, the private businesses don't share that data with us. But I can ask again. I think it's a good question.
I think it's a very good question. Thank you, Daryl. Let's move to reports. Director's report on monthly financials.
Hi, good evening. If we could start with page 2, please. So looking at the cash position report for the year ended March 31st, 2025, we booked $2,365,158 in receipts. We spent $1,794,124, and we ended the month with $25,267,620 across all funds. Moving over to page 3, this is a new report that was added this month. These are the due to, and due from balances that are sitting on the books as of March 31st. The first 12 accounts you'll see total a little over $2.4 million, which is typical transactions that can happen between funds. Either the general fund pays an expense on behalf of another fund, or there's payroll or any other sorts of, journal entries that have to be created at that point in time. The last 4 accounts from 09/130/007 down to 30/130/16. Those balances are very old. They go back to at least 2014 to 2015. And at some point, I'd like to come before you to ask permission to write these off. But I just wanted to include these balances, though you have an idea of what's sitting on the books at this point in time. Do you have a question?
Yes. Is there a way to put the names, like what the accounts are? I mean, I know
Yeah,
there's number
I can
connections,
do
but I
that.
don't think.
Yeah.
I can add too, the idea here is to not let any of these balances get too out of whack. And by that, I mean, Barbara and I have been working together to satisfy these balances as they accrue through the year by moving cash. For instance, I'll just give one quick example. The general fund pays employees who do work at the wastewater treatment plants. So that's the general fund writing paychecks for people who are basically sewer fund employees. So we run our payroll through the general fund, and then a liability is created between the sewer fund and the general fund that needs to be satisfied. And the way you satisfy that is to move cash from the sewer to general to reimburse the general for the paychecks it wrote for sewer employees. And our hope is to not get back in that situation where we were a couple of years ago, where we had gigantic due from balances between the general and other funds.
So what are the old ones that you're not sure about that you're thinking you're going to need to write off?
The last 4 are some due tos and due froms that are on the recreation fund that in prior administrations, that was a fund that was used for various things. We no longer use that fund. So I would like to write off those balances at some point. And then Fund 30, again, is another fund that was used in prior administrations to account for debt service, which we no longer do. So those are why some of those balances are rather large right there. And I will say that the first 12 that I mentioned, when we get our audited financial report, these balances are not, they've all been cleared out as of 12/31, but this is just a capturing of the activity from 1/1 through 3/31.
I still don't quite understand it. I'm sorry. I know a little bit about accounting, but I don't quite understand. I mean, understand, the are these liabilities? Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to write off the liability? Is it a wash or is there?
No, so I
tax
want to
benefit
write them
writing
off through the fund balance. I'm not asking for that permission tonight, but because they are liability accounts, those balances move forward from year to year, whereas expenses roll in the revenues and expenses clear out each year when you close your books. But because these are liabilities, those balances move forward from year to year if you don't move any of the cash to satisfy these liabilities. And because we're no longer using these funds, it's basically just account balances that are sitting on dormant funds. So I would like to clean it up at some point this year so that it makes our job easier and makes our audit report a lot cleaner and the whole reconciliation process.
So just so I'm understanding it clearly, they're liabilities, and how do we satisfy the liability? We're
Yeah, they're
transferring
just-
money
they're-
from the general fund?
Well,
to-
there are liabilities between the various funds. So we have our general fund, our sewer fund, our parking fund.
Okay,
It's all the different fund, they're inter-fund
I
liabilities.
understand now. Okay, thank you.
And we did write off various funds before.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving over, do you have any more questions? Okay. Moving over to page 4, please. Looking at the general fund summary results for the year ended March 31st. The general fund is sitting at a net loss of $354,127. I do expect this fund to start operating positively within the next few months. Real estate taxes just went out, so we will be booking a lot more deposits, as well as I'm hoping that EIT will catch up. If you look at what we're sitting at year to date versus what we were last year, we're trailing by about $48,000, which I don't want to sound, cause an alarm now, but it's just something to keep in the back of our mind that we are trailing what we were last year. So I am hopeful that that will come back. Looking at some of the other line items, we are seeing our liened real estate taxes that we have sent to Portnoy for collection. Those collections are picking up, so that line item is doing very well. We did make our first quarter MMO down payment to both the police pension and the non-uniform. We paid $650,000 to the police fund and $120,000 to the non-uniform, and that came specifically from the cash account that we have for the 0.25 EIT monies. If we could move over to page 16, the special revenue funds. There's not too many highlights here. I just wanted to note that our liquid fuels allocation is expected to be booked tomorrow, April 10th. Stream protection revenues have done very well. Year-to-date collections are sitting at a little over $1 million, which the budget was 1.1, so we've done very well there. And I have nothing to report for the fire fund. And then moving over to page 20, the enterprise funds, parking and wastewater. Both funds are doing very well. They are sitting at a net income year-to-date. And I wanted to put on the record that I am feeling more hopeful about parking garage revenue. I was a little hesitant in the first few months just because we weren't seeing a lot of deposits coming through, but I have some more confidence in that line item and that, the revenues are going to meet the expenses. And then one other item I just wanted to note, if you look at the check register, which runs from to the back of the report, I did add a column for descriptions just so people that are reading this report are aware of what we're paying for and, just a description of what those things are because we don't come before the committee or council for full approval for every invoice that we write. Are there any questions?
Just as a follow-up from the ACT committee meeting yesterday, and there's an email out today regarding Mr. Krauser's report in the sum of $92,000 that was sent. If we could just review that real quick.
Sure. You will see that check that was written. If you look on page 26 of this report, there was a $92,595 check that was written to AmTrust Financial. And that was a result of the workers' comp audit that we went through a few weeks ago. And typically what happens in that audit is that we send the insurance company what our estimates are for payroll, and then they come in and do the audit based on the W-2s. So all of the money that we pay out. And sometimes, you either owe or you may get money back. But in this instance, we had a balance due of $92,000.
Is that high?
If you look at some of the actuals over the past few years, between 21, 22, we have had years where we had to pay. Last year, we had to pay in 35,000. And then I think the year before, it may have been around 15 or 20. I know that Mr. Metric had said that we would give a full account, a better response at the work session. And I am working on, putting in the actuals so that everyone can see, sort of what we had to pay or what we got back, so that you have a better understanding of what happened.
Thank you. I look forward to that. Any further questions on the dais for Ms. Leonti? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, let's move to old business. Approve the March 2025 meeting minutes. Is there any concerns up here? There's no concerns with you, obviously, so we're good to go. Let's move to new business. Approve a grant here, and that grant is for the Department of Community and Economic Development, Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer for Goose Creek Sanitary Sewer Conveyance Improvements. That's phase 2. Mr. Williams.
Sure. April 30th, grant application due. This is the right opportunity at the right time for this project. As stated, this is phase 2 of a 2-phase project to enlarge pipe diameters down in the southeast from 12 to 21 inches. I think everyone's familiar with the sort of a capacity bottleneck there, which prohibits any redevelopment or development basically south of Biddle Street and east of High Street, including very small business expansion in the business district. So this is very important. Page 2 is the actual text of the resolution, and phase 3 is just a high-level project map, just to help all of us, myself included, keep the phases distinct in our minds.
The grant's $500,000, $543,631 in a match. And when is phase 1 going out to bid, Mr. Williams? Mr. Mitchell?
We're hoping with the DEP approval of the water quality management permit, sometime we're shooting for July.
With that, are there any comments for Mr. Williams? Any public comment? Any objections? Okay, we call it 3-0. All right, item B, approve the budget modification number 3 for winter maintenance, allocating funding in the 2025 general fund for salt purchases.
So this budget modification before you is to pay for salt purchases in 2025 out of the general fund versus the typical fund that we would pay these out of for liquid fuels. That amount that we need to pay out of the general fund is $92,673.42. And then the other item that makes up the difference of the $136,869 is $44,195.58. And this is a transfer from the general fund to the liquid fuels fund for salt purchases that were not purchased under the contract where the lowest bidder was awarded the contract. This is an issue that happened in 2024 and in 2025, so it's essentially the same issue. In 2025, we were a member of a purchasing consortium with West Bradford where a bid was awarded for de-icer and solar salt, and I may not be saying the right words, so I know Don will be able to update that a little bit better than what I can say. Purchases were made for salt that the vendor that was used was not the vendor that was awarded through the bid, and to the best of my knowledge, the vendor that we used was not the lowest bidder. So this essentially violates the chapter within the liquid fuels purchasing guidelines through PennDOT, where you cannot purchase materials that are not paid through either CoStars or any sort of purchasing consortium or any other purchasing partnerships you may have with anyone else. That essentially violates using liquid fuels for that. I don't know if you have any questions for either Don, or I can answer any, or Mr. Metric.
I
don't
mean,
know.
Don and Barb and Mr., like, how do we avoid this moving forward? Was this done and it's like an emergency and that we needed the salt?
There was one time when we could not get a hold of the low bidder, and so we went to the other bidder. But that does not explain the majority of times that we went to the vendor that was not the low bidder. So I can't say it's because of an emergency. I found the root cause for the problem, and there were two. Then there was a third mistake that I wouldn't call a root cause. The root cause was not everybody on the management team in Public Works understood that the consortium bid was a split contract. Eastern Salt had the regular salt, and Chemical Equipment had the enhanced de-icer. Okay, so they didn't understand that how a split bid works, much to my surprise. So they thought that they were okay with ordering from the company that was not awarded the contract for enhanced de-icer. So that's one problem. Second problem is that not everybody on the management team at Public Works understood that once you order a certain dollar amount from someone who's not under contract, you become in violation of the state purchasing requirements. You know, you need to get 3 quotes at a certain level, you know, a certain amount of purchasing, and then you have to go out for bids at a certain dollar threshold as well. So those are the root causes. So I'm saying that part to let you know that has already been discussed. It's been addressed, and the controls are in place for this to never happen again. You know, in short, we really messed up. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I understand clearly. Okay, you had the two companies.
Right,
One was for de-icer and one was for the salt.
right.
Are you saying that we ordered de-icer from the salt person?
Yes,
Okay, so they were approved, but they just were only approved for the one piece.
right.
And so that's how the person got confused.
That's
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, they didn't like go rogue and like find a new like.
No,
salt-
they didn't go in the phone book and find a salt supplier. No, it was the other bidder. They just didn't understand what they were looking at. And since I'm here confessing all our sins, there was a third problem, which I would not call a root cause, and that is when the invoices, we have a system for approving invoices. There are a number of people that approve invoices, including myself. And we did not recognize that it was not the low bidder. Personally, I was, you know, I thought the process had been in place. I thought that there was a good understanding about, you know, what we were doing. I mean, we've been part of this consortium for a while, so it's not like this is just started, you know. And we have a veteran group at Public Works as well. So, quite frankly, I fell asleep. You know, I should have verified when I trusted too much. So, so that was the third mistake that we made.
Well, and I have the fourth one that we've talked about over email. I think we bought too much salt this year. We used too much salt this year. So,
Well, I'll say the first 3 were real clear. The fourth one, we're definitely going to study to find the minimum amount of salt that we can use so that we lower our cost, and we help protect the streams.
Streets, streams, dogs, people,
Yes.
all sorts of stuff.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, thanks for the explanation and thanks for showing us that there's a solution to it. It sounds complicated, so I'm not surprised. It sounds like a mistake, an accident. Okay.
I want to say, one, the mistakes were honest, but they were significant. We're not downplaying what was done here. We recognize the significance, and we regret the mistake, and I'm personally sorry.
I
Thank
do
you,
have
Don.
one other question. Because we were in violation of the contract,
Mhm.
is there a penalty for that, a fine? Okay. All
No,
right.
there's not.
It-
And with what Sean and Barb are proposing tonight with the budget modification, we're not even going to get dinged in an audit. So there's no financial penalty, and I don't think we're even going to get dinged in the audit with what we're doing here.
Mr. Metrick?
I did speak with the borough solicitor on this matter, and the harm here is that more money was paid for salt. And I asked Mr. Edwards to calculate that value, and a napkin estimate, I think it's somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 over the course of the 2 seasons. Extra was spent on salt. So that's the harm. The harm is to the citizens of Westchester Borough because the government paid more for the salt. We didn't buy it from the lowest responsible bidder. So that's the harm from a legal point of view. That delta or difference between the low bidder and the price that we were actually charged.
And I did see last night on the Public Works Committee, you did save us a 60 grand in paving.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
I was determined to not try to, justify, or make or lessen the blow here, but that is a fact that, and not only that, there've been some other cost savings. So, but there was some damage, as Sean just
As
mentioned.
long as we learn from it, we're good.
Yep.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any objection? All right, so we're good approving item B. Item C pertains to item B. Approve the transfer of $44,195.58 from the general fund to the liquid fuels fund to reimburse for 2024 salt purchases.
Yeah, and again, this is just a piggyback of the former ask. Because these invoices have already been paid last year, and it's essentially the same issue. In the last year's contract, chemical equipment had the contract for both the de-icer and the regular salt, and we purchased through Eastern Salt. I just want to say that I'm happy that we have, although this is an issue, we are having our liquid fuels audit in 2 weeks. So I think that this is showing that we're being proactive, that we know that, we made an error and we're attempting to fix it before it comes to light in an audit report.
Thank you, Barb. Any comments? Any public comments? Any objections? All right, we're approving item C. And item D, the following purchasing request, USALCO $12,835.20. That's for phosphorus removal. Spring City Electrical Manufacturing, $13,280. That's a replacement of 2 deco lights regarding, replacement of lights regarding 2 accidents previously. Sherwood Logan Sludge Transfer Pump, that is a transfer pump. Sherwood Logan, 2 primary sludge pumps again.
Brian, if I could interrupt you.
Go ahead.
There was an error on this purchase order for Sherwin Logan for the 2 primary sludge pumps. The total amount should be $41,135.50, not $41,567.50.
Okay. Thank you for that correction. Piers Water Supply, $23,820. That's the chemical metering at Goose Creek. Huff Associates, $16,806.51. That's the excess grant, for the excess grant that we're paying back. Coastal Technology, Technical Sales, $59,030.57. It's for 2,000 gallon tank. Geiger Pump and Equipment, $10,999.19. That's for a digester. Eastern Salt, which we just reviewed, $92,673.42. Arc Wild here is 19,598 even, and that's for the maintenance for the rain gardens. And finally, T2 Systems, 43,668. And I believe that's the systems for our parking garages, correct? Perfect. Parking enforcement. Okay, are there any public comment regarding any of those purchases? Comments on the dais? Objections? All right, item D has been approved. Let's move to 7, other business. Any other business? Seeing none, adjourn at 5:57.